Hi, I'm Melissa, and we are going to be talking today about how sign language helps communication and verbal language. So, sign language can give access to a system of communication, and baby sign allows your child to communicate functionally before even being able to speak. So, this can help really bridge the gap between your child not speaking and your child speaking. This can help decrease frustration and also decrease behaviors because sometimes kids with limited ability to communicate can start acting out because they can't tell you if they want more or something, or they want to be all done. So this can really help. Um, Baby sign can also increase readiness for talking because it really expands on typical development of gestures, which are really important pre-talking skills. So by teaching baby sign, you're encouraging your child to imitate and comprehend symbols, and also teaching them to have the intent to communicate, which is really important for later talking skills. Sign language can also improve reciprocal communication because this really allows you to go back and forth with your child. So if your child signs like more, you can talk to them and say, "Oh, I see you want more." And then you give them more. And then they might sign later, "All done." And you're going to respond to that. So this helps build those early conversational skills that are crucial for language. There's four skills that develop before words, and these are really important for those words to come. So the first is your child has to be able to interact. So that means that they're socially interested in others. They can take turns vocalizing back and forth, even if that's just with babbling. They can start using objects functionally and doing functional and symbolic play skills. So they're using like an object for something else, like a banana as a phone. They have to understand before they are able to communicate. So the input is they have to be able to anticipate what's going to maybe come next in a routine, following early simple directions, participating in things like peekaboo, and understanding if you talk about the car, they might look towards the car. So they're understanding what you're saying. Imitation, we're going to be talking a lot about today, but that's a huge skill that develops before words. And we want to build that imitation that might look like us rolling a ball back and forth and them imitating that, or them imitating play sounds. And then the intent to communicate is really important. So that means that your child may communicate with eye gaze. They may start communicating with gestures, and they're doing this for a variety of purposes. They might be asking for more, protesting, etc. So there are many different levels of imitation, and we're going to go through how you can go all the way from level 1 to level 8, and why it's really important for our children to learn how to imitate, even just early with actions with objects. So in level 1, we're just shaking a rattle, and they might shake the rattle, or we're pushing a car and we're watching them learn how to push the car. So they understanding that what we do, we really want them to be imitating after us. After that is early gestures. So that might be stomping, or even things like we show them how to wave and they start to wave in imitation, or we show them how to clap and they start to clap. So they're learning those early communicative gestures there from us. And this is also where sign language can come into play. So we're showing them the more sign, and then they start to eventually imitate that. Level 3 is imitating nonverbal actions with your face. This one is not as important, but you can have some fun with it. Like you look in the mirror and you pucker your lips, or you smile and see if they'll do that. Level 4 is they start to imitate vocalizations in play. So these are really important things for us to be imitating in play. So you can like hold a bucket up and go ah, and see if they then take the bucket and put it in front of them and say ah. You can do fun play sounds, especially for level 5. You can be imitating or showing them things like uh-oh, or icky, or ouch, and making these super fun so that your child really wants to imitate them. Level 6 is automatic speech and verbal routines. So that's like when we pause, if we go like ready, set, and your child might say go, or they might understand to complete something. Like if you say peek, they might say boo. So learning how to imitate those things that might come a little more automatically for them. Then they're going to start imitating functional words like more or all done. They might be kind of fading the signs at this point and starting to say the words or pairing the words with the signs if they've learned them. And then level 8 is that's when they're really starting to imitate those more short phrases. They're parroting you a lot throughout the day. So, why is imitation so important? So, imitation is a critical part of language development, and it allows babies to learn new words by watching new things by watching those around them. So, babies really pick up on things by watching us, and we want them to be observing us and trying to pick up what we're doing. So, the imitation of actions, gestures, and vocalizations lead to the imitation of words, as we just saw in that chart. And once kids start to parrot, then they're really going to start usually starting to talk a lot more, picking up a lot more words. Imitation teaches the kids to pay attention to their caregivers, which is really necessary for language development. And children learn signs through parents modeling targeted signs throughout the day. So we'll be talking more about this later, but repetition is huge for this. We want to be modeling these signs throughout many activities so they're starting to pick up on it. I always like to think about if I was learning a new language, it would be really important for me to hear that word many, many times throughout the day for me to pick up on it. So our kids are just the same. They're learning a new skill and they need to be presented it many times. Some other early imitation skills that you can practice at home. A lot of these are your pairing of vocalization with an action so that you can see, does your child imitate the action or do they imitate the vocalization or both of them? So you can like pet a stuffed animal and go, ah, or you can take a drink and then go, ah, and see if your child imitates those kind of things. So there is a typical development of gestures. A great resource for this is the First Words Project, which is 16 gestures by 16 months, and they go into a lot of depth on that, explaining the gestures. And gestures are key social communication milestones that develop between 9 and 16 months. All children and adults use gestures throughout our environment. So you might clarify something by pointing. As adults, we still do this. We still wave. So there's a lot of things that we are doing throughout the day that still involve gestures. So really important, not just for toddlers, but for everyone. Gestures provide the foundation needed to launch language and learning, and baby signs are just an extension of these gestures. Signs are a type of gesture that we can teach to help reduce frustration and improve our communication skills in our kids that are not talking. Like we talked about, it can be a bridge between not talking and talking and really help these kids. So typical development of gestures might look at like 9 months shaking their head for no, 10 months reaching those arms up to be picked up to tell you that, 11 months might be showing or waving, 12 months like an open hand point or tapping, 13 months clapping and blowing a kiss, 14 months might actually be like a full index finger point or something closer to that and doing like the shh gesture. 15 months might be a head nod for yes or like the thumbs up. And then 16 months can be any other symbolic gesture. So that could be like, I don't know, or that could also lead into some of these signs that they would learn.
So now we're going to get into some of the earlier signs that you might want to start with your kids when they are first learning sign language. And I know these are a lot of the ones that we start with in speech therapy. These 5 signs are very functional and can be used several times a day. Eat is a very common one, and it's basically like you just take one hand and kind of tap around your mouth. More is a very popular one. It's just taking your 2 hands together and tapping. Please is something that I know a lot of parents like to work on with their kids, and it's basically just rubbing your chest for please. All done is a good one. I always like to work on this one like very around like snack time or meal time when they're in their high chair, and instead of like throwing their food, just signing a simple all done, kind of just shaking your hands. And then there's help, which That would be like one palm up and then your fist on top and raising your hands up together. These are some really good signs to start with if you're starting to work on baby signs. And actually, we do have some videos of each one of these in like a real life situation. So I'm going to play this video of more now.
More? More. You want some more food? To do the sign for more, you put your thumbs to your fingers, then you put them together. If your baby learns to sign more, your baby can ask you for more food, for example, or more toys. What? Want some more? Yeah. Oh. More? Okay. All done? More. All right. More? Okay. More. Yummy, yummy. Is it please? Good job. Our house, we like to bounce it like many other families do. More! You want some more? All right. You do it with the sign whenever they have something and you can tell they want more. You can say, you want some more? And then you give them more. Baby, you want more? Yes. Do you want more? Okay. For daily motivation and new signs, follow us on Instagram where we also feature your baby signing, which is so cute. See you there.
I like that video because you can see how each child does it a little bit differently. It doesn't have to be a perfect, like thing or two, like everything in place. It can be a very general, close approximation, just depending on their motor skills. I like to see those like real life examples because every child has their own kind of version of more. Here's same thing for all done.
Buddy, are you all done? All done. Okay, let's clean up.
Okay. And eat.
Eat. Eat. Very good.
And you can see how a lot of times, especially when babies are first learning signs, we do have to prompt them, and they rely on that. Like, are you all done? Do you want to eat? Asking them those questions, and then it kind of prompts them to show us the sign. And here's please and milk.
You're all done? Or do you want more? More? Can you say please? Please. There you go. You can have some more. Yeah, you can have some more. Good job. There it is. Yeah, mix it around. You want some milk? Okay, well, I'll go get your milk.
And here, the caregiver does a great job of waiting and allowing them to communicate. So, as your child becomes more familiar with signs and they become more part of their routine, we can lay back our questions. And instead of asking, do you want more? Do you want milk? Do you want to be all done? We can kind of wait to see what they'll do on their own and how they'll initiate communication with us. Here, as your child becomes more advanced with sign language, these are some other ones that you might see. I mean, some of these look like, well, the high and by are, those are the official signs for them, I guess. But some of these are some more early signs, I guess, that you can use with them. And it depending on what their interests are. So say like they, their favorite activity is bubbles, you might want to introduce that one early on, or book. Um, you can always like look at a picture or find YouTube has videos, or we'll show you at the end. There's some resources that have like more videos of what these signs look like in real life. But these are just some more options here too. Just some frequently used words that you might want to introduce to your child. So implementing these, so I'm going to talk about some activities that might encourage motor movement. So whether that's signs or gestures that you can get your child moving their arms and their hands. Bubbles is a good way to get that motor movement going, whether it's popping the bubbles or asking for more with their sign language. Water play is always a good way to get children to imitate what you're doing in the water, splashing, pouring, all different things you can do in the water with motor movement. I always like to introduce songs in therapy, with especially songs with gestures, like Itsy Bitsy Spider. It gets the gestures moving along with singing. And the more that they hear these songs and see these gestures, the more likely they will be to imitate them. And again, like Melissa was saying, that imitation and use of gestures is really, really important to get language going, and could be a prerequisite for sign language too. Playing with a ball, so catching it, throwing it, and then they could use their signs to ask for more as well. There's some, I don't know that you'll go this far with sign language, but there are some grammar rules with sign. Generally, to sign mom and dad, it's the same sign, but male signs are at the top while female signs are at the bottom. And verbs, if you're using verbs in sign language, that's one movement, and nouns are typically two different movements. Some research on the use of AAC. So AAC just stands for Alternative and Augmentative Communication, or Augmentative and Alternative Communication. And all that means is any means of talking that's not verbal speech. And anybody you can use AAC if they have any sort of, if verbal speech is not enough to get their needs met. So AAC could include sign language, it can include written communication, or a iPad speech generating device to communicate. So we can, if your child's coming to speech therapy, if they need speech therapy, then a lot of times your speech therapist will explore some AAC options if verbal speech is not enough to get their needs met. But I know sometimes this comes up a lot, and some caregivers worry that the use of AAC will cause their children to lose interest in talking. So if we're introducing sign language to our children, they might rely on their signs instead of talking. And there's been a lot of research into this, and it actually shows that it does not have a negative impact on verbal language. And actually, a lot of times introducing alternative forms of communication, such as sign language, can encourage verbal language development. It's beneficial for all around development. It supports expressive language skills, receptive language skills, which is comprehension of language, literacy skills, so reading and play and social, and behavioral and frustration tolerance. So basically, sign language can really only benefit your child, and introducing it is going to be very helpful to them at whatever age they are. Here are some sign language resources. These are some websites that you can look at for if you are looking for a specific sign that you want to introduce to your child and you want to see how it's done. These websites have videos and pictures to show you how to do it. More just general language resources for families. This is Connecting for Kids. So if your child is having speech language delay, they have helpful speech and language videos. The 16 gestures by 16 months that Melissa was talking about has a handout on all of those gestures that she mentioned with some pictures. And SpeechSisters.com is it's a set of twins who are speech therapists, and they have a ton of good resources. They're also on Instagram, and they have helpful blog posts as well. Some considerations. Oh, I'm gonna do this one. Okay.
Some considerations to think about when you're considering using sign with your children is if your child is already in speech therapy, I would recommend just asking, do you think that signing is appropriate? Because if they have like fine motor delays or a lot of difficulties with imitation, there might be other more appropriate ways to get them to be able to communicate. When choosing signs, make sure that you're choosing some signs that are really motivating to your child. This will help your child pick up on them faster. It'll make more sense to them. So if your child, for instance, really loves to play with balls, you can teach them ball first. And another thing to think about is just signs that can be used throughout the day for a variety of activities. So you can use the more sign for a lot of different things. You can use help or please or all done. So all these functional words can be used in pretty much any activity that your child is doing. I always recommend starting with 2 to 3 signs. This helps it be less overwhelming to you guys and also helps your child really start to learn those few signs instead of introducing a ton and then they really don't pick up on any because there's too many being introduced. So I would say between you and anybody else who lives in the house, maybe talk about here's 2 signs that we're going to do this week, and then keep adding them as your child starts picking up on them and you're just adding them to model. And then always make sure that when you're signing, you're saying the word at the same time. So you're not just going like this, you're going to say more every time you're doing that. And also, if you see your child sign, so if they go like this, you want to always verbally say all done when you see them do that, or whatever sign they're using. So they're always getting that verbal input because we're trying to lead them into eventually pairing with the word and then fading the sign. It's really fun to get the whole family involved. Make sure you tell caregivers or grandparents or anyone else in the house what these signs are. Really important because if your child does them, you want them to know what they're saying. But it's also fun for them to start modeling them throughout the day too. And then your child sees that it's fun and various people are doing it. We noticed that a lot of siblings love to take on this role of being like the teacher for their younger sibling. And so you can try to like challenge them to do it multiple times throughout the day to really get them to your child to see it many, many times because the repetition is key. And then again, if your child has any of those fine motor delays or difficulties imitating, you may have to talk to a speech therapist about a better option for your child. Some key takeaways. Imitation is a foundational skill that's really important, and sign can help with this imitation skill. Gestures emerge before words in typical development, so us adding in these signs is still kind of going at a typical development. Repetition aids learning, like we've talked about. You really have to do these all the time in order for your child to pick up on them. And the use of sign often helps children learn communication skills, like Lauren talked about, and often leads to verbal language. So that's the ultimate goal, is to get them all the way over to verbal language for everything. So we're going to watch a final video about a child signing. Now, I will say it's pretty rare to get a child to actually be doing as many signs as she's doing in this video. We rarely see that, but I will say it's nice to watch a child be able to do a lot of these signs and see that it is possible. And you'll also, again, see that she's mainly doing the approximations for these signs, but the mom is always doing them back to her correctly. So she's always seeing the correct version of the sign. So as her motor skills get better, she might start doing them a little bit better so that more people could understand her. We'll watch this video.
This is my daughter Freeze, and she just turned 1, and I want to show you some of the signs that she knows. What's that? Yeah. How about mama? Where's mommy? Mom. Excellent. What's the sign for feet? How about more? More. How about finished? Finished. Good. And Freeze. What's this? O is for Cheerios. We do O is for Cheerios. Good. And what's this? Stars. These are stars. Good girl. And Freeze, what's this? What's that? Apple. Good girl, apple. And oh, how about this? What's this? Cheese. Good, you do this for cheese. Good. How about milk? It's time for milk. Milk. There. And how about kiwi? That's right. Reese fingers spell kiwi. K-I-W-I. And she's not really finger spelling, but she's trying. What's kiwi? Water. She just asked for water. That's right. Water. There. And water. Good. What's the time for kiwi? Kiwi. See how she's trying to finger spell it? Good. What's the sign for book? Book. That's right. And how about hat? That's right. How about light? Light. Good girl. And what's the sign for cracker? Cracker. Good. And how about bat? Bat. That's right. That's the sign for bat. I'm gonna go baby. And baby. Good girl. And how about ball? Oh, yeah. And how about sleep? Sleep. That's right. That's the sign for sleep. And how about phone? No sign for phone? Okay. Good girl. Those are just a few of the signs that she knows, and she's very verbal as you hear some of the words as she's signing them. She knows over 20 words and 30 signs, so she has a vocabulary of over 50 words. Some people are worried that if you sign with them, that it will inhibit their vocabulary. That's not true. But as you can see, it doesn't. Whenever I sign to her, I'm constantly talking to her, so there's no reason why it would inhibit her vocabulary. And as you can see with her signing and talking, signing really does work.